Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strykers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60.
Welcome to Soccer in 60, brought to you by SAC Health System. This is the fastest-paced soccer show in SoCal, covering all the week's news, highlights, and more from LAFC, the Galaxy, Angel City, Orange County Soccer Club, and of course, the Major Arena Soccer League's Empire Strykers. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Cara Lang-Romero, filling in for the Scarf, J.R. Liebert. Big shoes to fill, but I'm grateful for the opportunity and ready to dive right in. Appreciate you all being here. Lots to get into on today's episode of Soccer in 60. So subscribe to the podcast on all your podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe to Soccer in 60 on YouTube. Our guest today is a writer for Soccer America who has covered both LAFC and the Galaxy since the very beginning. In fact, if you've been following soccer the last few decades, you've definitely read his work. He's been writing about pro soccer since 1979 and has covered 5 World Cups, 3 Olympics, a European Championship, and at least 15 MLS Cups. He's a former senior editor at Soccer America and managing editor at Major League Soccer magazine. It's such a pleasure to welcome back to the show, Mr. Scott French. Scott, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to chat with you in the press box, Scott, and how lucky we are to have you on the show tonight. We'll be talking Galaxy and LAFC. You were at BMO tonight for LAFC Toluca, so can't wait to hear how that went from your perspective. But let's give a shout out to our friends at Omnitrans first. In partnership with the Empire Strykers, experience the thrill of game day with Omnitrans. Be in the heart of the action at Toyota Arena and let Omnitrans take care of the ride. Simply download the Transit app to catch your bus and enjoy a stress-free trip to cheer on the Strykers. Don't miss out on the excitement and make every moment count at Toyota Arena. Ride with Omnitrans to your next Empire Strykers game. So starting off at Dignity Health on Sunday, Galaxy got back on the right side of things with a big 2-1 win at home over a good RSL side. Marco Reus continued his solid showing with a brace in this one. And amidst all the injuries, Galaxy finally got Jakub Glesnes back, playing in his first match since early March. As a neutral, if you were watching this, it was one of the most entertaining matches of the season so far. Some of the key moments: Reus scored a brilliant goal, set piece in the 9th minute, 20 yards out, and keeper Rafael Cabral barely reacted, perfectly placed. Absolutely clutch from the German superstar. Glesnes with a bad giveaway and Garces with a questionable tackle, all on the same play about 35 minutes into the match. Then Glesnes gets beat on the pass that leads to the own goal off the back of Marcinkowski. Galaxy has been awaiting his return, but definitely not his strongest 45-minute shift. Harbour Miller with a start up top, another sign that Greg Vanney believes in the youngster. Paintsel with an incredible opportunity where he forced Cabral to make a very difficult save. Gosh, Paintsel looks dynamic as he finds his form once again. Scott, you got to speak with Paintsel recently. It's a pretty crucial next month for him, isn't it?
It is, and it also takes me back to that goal chance. I talked to Paintsel about 2 weeks before he came back, and really what I said was, hey, you got a new coach, Kirosh, taking over in Ghana. What do you think? And he said, well, I like the change, and I need to get back out there, and I need to score some goals. I need to show him, and I can do that by scoring goals. And I think that's what he's thinking as he's bearing down on the keeper there, because I think he blew it. I think you got Peck over on the right, you play it over to him, and it's a tap-in goal. And I think you impress Kirosh more with that than going for the goal itself. We're all hoping Joe makes it. We'd love to see him in the World Cup.
And that certainly wasn't the only questionable decision by the Galaxy Strikers in the final third. A lot of bad decision-making for them when it comes to finishing lately. But it was a win for the Galaxy. And Scotty's been on the hot seat, but with this win, is Vanney breathing a lot easier right now?
That's a difficult one to answer, because I think the hot seat is from the fans, and inside, I don't think there is a hot seat. I think that the context surrounding this team since Ricky Pooch went out a year and a half ago now, have been extraordinary, beyond anything I've seen, and I've covered this league from the beginning. There are so many moving pieces that have to fall into place in Greg's system. Greg has the most complicated system in MLS. He has the most sophisticated system in MLS. He is looking for the greatest art in MLS. And to do it, players have to be up to speed on it. We saw with Toronto FC. It took them a year and a half playing that system before it clicked. And then they were the best team in the league for 3 years. We saw that with the Galaxy. Once they had all the pieces in place, needed another 6 months, and boom, now they're the best team in MLS. Right now, they've got issues in midfield in that they've got a couple of young midfielders who are still working their way into understanding exactly what they need to do, where they need to be. So much is about being in particular places at the right time and a collective reading of the game. And that's going to take time. I think we're going to see the best of the Galaxy after the World Cup break. I think until then, they're going to struggle a little bit. They're going to have moments where they don't look like they're cohesive. And a lot of that's just about players getting used to roles that are very different than they've ever played before.
In addition to just players getting used to their roles and the expectations from Greg Vanney, do you think that there's an opportunity for the Galaxy to bring in some more firepower, maybe in the summer transfer window, to add to that upward trajectory?
Well, there certainly is not a lot of depth up top. And I could see them looking for a forward. I'd like to see them look for a forward, but I'm not sure they're going to do so. Part of it is to bring in, they can bring in somebody who is a secondary type of forward, somebody who can fill in when they need somebody to fill in. But to go after somebody who is going to be a major player for them, it's about money. It's about roles. They have no DP spots. And anything that they do has to be with mind that Ricky Pooch is back next season. That's the expectation. That's what they have to plan through. So I think it's complicated for them. I'm not sure how they're going to go on it, but I know that those are the things they're thinking about. Is we could use somebody up there. Can we afford it? And does it make sense with what we're going to have?
Yeah. Something else that's been complicated has been the goalkeeper situation. Marcinkowski came up big with an excellent save in the 20th minute. In this match, is it safe to say that he's wrestled that job away from Mitrovic at this point?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, he's getting the start every game. He's a really good shot stopper, but he's also got more of the kind of personality that you want from a keeper. A very vocal, very take charge guy, very confident. I like Mitrovic as a keeper, but he's quiet and he's not gung ho. And I think you can be a great goalkeeper and be that. But I think that the Galaxy prefer to have a goalkeeper who has a larger personality.
And up next for the Galaxy, they're back home this weekend on Saturday, and it's a tough test against a red-hot Vancouver Whitecaps side that's won 4 straight and sits second in the West. Vancouver's been one of the most dangerous teams in the league, averaging close to 3 goals a game and conceding less than 1. Feels like a game where the Galaxy need to control transitions because Thomas Muller and the Vancouver Whitecaps will absolutely punish you if you don't. Scott, what would a win against a team like the Whitecaps at this point in the season mean for the Galaxy?
Well, it'd be a huge confidence boost. It would tell them that they are on the right track. And I think that's a big thing with the players right now. They believe in themselves. They believe they have a good team. They do not, they think the results as they have gone, that's going to change. But they need to show that. And Vancouver is as good as it comes in this league. And, I think it would be a massive win for them. I think it's a potential win for them, especially being at home. But yeah, that's going to be a tough game.
I wanted to ask you after the last match about Harbour Miller getting the start. I mentioned that it's a clear sign Greg Vanney believes in him. He did struggle a little bit in this match. He looked good to start, and then he really fell off for the remainder of the match. What is it you think that Greg Vanney sees in the youngster?
Well, one, he's fearless. And he's very good running with the ball, and one of the best players on the team running with the ball. but Greg also sees him that his real position is as an outside back. He's a fullback. He's someone who can play up the wing, and they're using him in that position as they need to. Losing Klaus really kind of confounds how they do things up there, and Harbor's able to fill in with that. Harbor, when he is on, he is just outstanding, but he's a young player. He's still finding his way through the game at this level, and he is going to have moments where he just kind of loses the plot.
Someone that has stepped up amidst all these injuries has been Marco Reus. He has arguably been the most consistent player for the Galaxy so far this season. Came up huge in the last match with both a PK and a free kick goal. Talk a little bit about him and how he's really become a leader in this team, as even though he maybe might not be the most vocal leader.
Yeah, he's one of those leaders by example. He's the class of this team. He's the one who can modulate how they play, the speed of the game, just the impetus that they have. He sees the game at a different level than everybody else out there. I guess the issue with him is always how much can he play, and he needs time off. He has suffered a lot of injuries, and it's figuring out when the minutes make sense and when they don't. With Klaus out, Marco becomes that much more important because they're playing around with who's playing at center forward. They had Joseph up there this past week. When Nascimento is back, that maybe changes things a little bit, but yeah, Marco's really important. But I want to mention one other player who I think is really stepping up, and for me, he is just becoming really exciting, and that's Lucas Sanabria. He comes from a league where his job was to get into duels and win duels, and now he's in a role where his job is to do a whole lot of other things, and it's taking him some time to kind of figure out what all those things are. He's never played that before, and now we're starting to see that role along with the way that he can battle, and he's winning so many balls in midfield. He's coming up big defensively, and he's helping to lead the transition forward, and he's somebody I think we should really keep an eye on.
He was huge in transition moments. Last match, he set up Paintsill for a really nice chance there. Really quick, I want to ask you, exciting matchup with Marco Reus and Thomas Müller coming up, the two German players. What do we have to look forward to with that one?
Well, I think they're going to enjoy it quite a bit. They know each other quite well. Thomas Thomas does more, and stopping him is really key for the Galaxy to do well, or maybe stopping is a little bit severe. Limiting what he can do and his effectiveness is really important. Marco is a little bit more of he will pop up in different places. He doesn't have to be the guy who is taking the steps forward, who's doing those things. He can do that, but he's more the guy who's going to help his teammates really go into the places they need to be and lead them through that. I think it's going to be a really interesting battle. I don't know how often they're going to see each other, how often they're going to tangle on the field itself, but it's going to be a nice look at a couple of really fine German players.
And just again, a reminder that next match, Vancouver against Galaxy at Dignity Health Sports Park on Saturday. But now we are on to the black and gold. Before we get into tonight's match at BMO, LAFC defeated Minnesota United 1-0 on the road this past weekend amidst the most congested schedule in club history. 13 matches in 44 days, one every 3.3 days, and it continues. The madness continues through May 17th. It was a rotated lineup that saw both Son and Delgado stay home, while Jacob Schaffelberg and, for the most part, Sergi Palencia had the night off. LAFC got on the board early against Minnesota amidst a nice bit of tiki-taka as David Martinez, Stefan Eustachio, and Timothy Tillman combined with some tight passing around the box in the 9th minute to put LAFC in the lead early. But Scott, LAFC's offense essentially disappeared for the next 75 minutes after Martinez's goal. It certainly wasn't a pretty win for the black and gold. Marc Dos Santos said he was less concerned about how they got the result and just more concerned with getting a result. After the loss against San Jose, the draw with Colorado, how important was this 3 points, albeit ugly, for the LAFC as a whole?
Well, I think anytime you can get 3 points, it's huge, and especially when you can get it on the road. And I think they were really pleased with what they did, especially given what their schedule's like and that the real priority right now is this Toluca series. They did enough, and sometimes that's all you can ask for. You're kind of rotating players in and out a little bit. You're keeping track of minutes. Your players need to be on the field, but they also need to not be on the field, if you know what I mean. And and I think that I think it was a really good win for them, and sets them up for they want to win the Supporter Shield. Anytime you get 3 points, it helps in that regard.
And it was also a great opportunity to give Aaron Long his first start after coming back from his Achilles tendon. This backline has been so strong already. Now they've got the addition of Aaron Long back there, but Marc Dos Santos will have to find a way to get him on the pitch. He's got some tough decisions ahead of him, doesn't he?
He does, and it's nice to see Aaron getting back on the field, and he's been showing well. But you notice he's not playing the full way yet. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time, and it's going to take some time for him to get back to where he was. He's out a long time. It was a severe injury. The longer you're out and the more severe the injury, the more you need to grow in the game when you get back. But that's the kind of decision a manager, or the kind of problem a manager loves. They've got so much depth at the back, which is really, really important, and it could be very vital this upcoming weekend, given that San Diego's big problem is depth at the back.
Mm-hmm. And it was another strong performance by Hugo Lloris. We can't talk about this game without talking about him. We'll also get into Hugo Lloris in the match tonight against Toluca, but it was just another strong performance, another clean sheet for Hugo Lloris. What does it mean for a player of his caliber, World Cup champion, but at his age, to be still standing on his head the way he is? It's 8 clean sheets in the league now for Hugo Lloris.
We're seeing some of the best Hugo Lloris we've ever seen. I mean, he's everywhere. As you say, we're going to talk a little bit more tonight. The saves he made tonight were brilliant. For me, he's the LAFC MVP thus far in this season. He's got a good defense in front of him, but how many goals should he have given up that he didn't? He's just brilliant, and I think he's just loving it. A player. When a player's really flowing, when everything's going his way, there's nothing better in the world.
And I want to note as well that along with Aaron Long, Stefan Eustáquio was back in the starting lineup and looked good over his hour on the pitch. Maybe a little slow in his return to full fitness, but having him back in the lineup will be huge for LAFC going forward. Can you talk a bit about what he's brought to this team since his arrival?
Well, he's another one who's still kind of working his way in, getting some minutes, has to get back up to the flow, and really kind of fits into a rotation. They've got a very strong midfield, and he gives it a little bit more bite, and that's a big plus. You got to be dirty, and he can help bring that, and at the same time, give you a little bit of real flair as well.
Yeah. His passing ability is just unmatched, I think. And we saw it in tonight's match, what he added when he came onto the pitch in the second half. So speaking of tonight's match, let's get into the LAFC Toluca matchup. LAFC advanced to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and tonight they took on Liga MX giants Toluca at BMO for the first leg of the tie. Lots to talk about in this match. It was a chaotic start to the match for LAFC. Toluca outclassed them in the first half in basically every metric. Los Diablos Rojos enjoyed 70% of possession in the first 45, but LAFC's backline stayed compact. And Hugo Lloris, we mentioned him already, but wow, it was an incredible double save by him moments before the half that allowed LAFC to take it into the locker room scoreless. Then LAFC came out for the second half strong, no changes in the lineup, and scored a beauty to take the lead. Tillman on his third clear goal scoring opportunity of the match. He made no mistake this time and buried it. Jesus Angulo leveled it at 1-1 in the 73rd. He had inches of space, but found the opening and curled it perfectly with power into the bottom corner, just out of reach of Hugo Lloris. Nothing he could have done on that one, Scott? But it wasn't the last stunner of the match. Nkosi Tafari scored the game winner for LAFC in the second minute of stoppage time. Son Heung-min stepped up to take the free kick, rifled it across the goal, and Tafari headed it home to make it 2-1 LAFC. Scott, you were at that game. Can you give us your impressions of the match?
Well, I thought LAFC was really, really good defensively. The only real chance Toluca had in the first half was on that corner kick, and Hugo comes up big, and really, fortunately so, because they didn't score is pretty stunning. But aside from that, I thought Galaxy. I thought LAFC did a great job of keeping them from penetrating. They had the ball outside the box. The game was primarily played between the midfield line and their box, but they couldn't penetrate. And I thought Tafari was outstanding. I thought that Porteous was fantastic. They just did a really good job of getting in the way, of clogging things up, and of not allowing Toluca's skill to bother them. And then in the second half, they recognized that we're not getting forward. Going 0-0 with this team doesn't really help you when we get to next week. And we saw them go forward a little bit more, and we saw them do so with some success. And they came very close to having a second goal, the Schaffelberg's goal that was called offside. Mark Dos Santos, after the game, called that a scandal. Said that he called a couple of things a scandal in his post game today. Well, he said that the line that VAR drew was something that what his 5-year-old daughter would have drawn back when she was 5 years old, and says that CONCACAF needs to step up and say, "We're sorry, we were wrong."
He wants a formal apology.
Yeah, he thought it was a horrendous call. And was not pleased that he noted that it took them 6 minutes from the goal scored till VAR and the referee made a decision. When the referee went over to look at the VAR, it took 1.5 minutes to make the decision that it was offside. If it's taking that long, should you be overturning it? Is it clear and obvious if you're taking that long to do it? So he had plenty to say about that. The goal they gave up, I mean, that was a beautiful goal. I mean, Toluca is so good. I think they're the best team in CONCACAF, and that's hardly any revelatory thing to say. And Tafari was able to escape the scrum, the defenders around him. He was the only one who went forward on that serve, and what a beautiful header. And that 2-1 helps them. You're going into Toluca with an advantage. Is it enough of an advantage? I'm not sure. I think it's going to be very tough.
That's my big question, because they started with 5 in the back. LAFC were clearly trying to just absorb pressure to start the game and stave off that dreaded away goal, which Toluca inevitably scored. So how much does that Angulo goal hurt them heading into the hostile environment and altitude in Toluca?
I think it hurts them a lot. I felt going in that they needed a 3-goal win to really have a chance. That 2 goals wouldn't be enough in that atmosphere. I mean, that atmosphere is unlike anything that they face in MLS at any time. The way Toluca plays at home, the aggressiveness that they play with, the physicality, it's different than how they play here. That 8,700 feet of elevation. I've never been that high except in an airplane.
Feel good.
No, they are facing something that's going to be really difficult, and we haven't seen anybody else able to deal with it so far in this tournament. The games at Toluca, Toluca dominates, and they do so for a number of reasons. all that we said, and it's a team of massive quality. I think it's going to be very, very tough. Anything can happen in 90 minutes. Red card
As we saw
here.
tonight, because the LAFC certainly wasn't the dominant team for much of the match, but they still came out on top.
Well, that's the beauty of football, right? You don't have to be the best. I recall a game. I don't know I think this was ahead of your time, maybe at UCLA, Texas A&M quarterfinal NCAA. UCLA outshoots them 21-0 and loses on PKs.
That might have been before me. Yeah, I think that was a little bit before me.
That's the one that always that jumps out at me. You can dominate a team in this game, and it doesn't mean a thing.
LAFC did look rushed in possession, though. It was almost, especially in that first 45. There were moments where I felt like they looked like they were allergic to the ball at times. But then it definitely shifted in the second half. They were dominant in moments in the second half. So I would say Marc Dos Santos deserves some credit for the tactical adjustments he made that allowed LAFC to be more creative going forward. What did you make of the changes that they weren't even player changes, because he came out with the same starting lineup to start the half, but there was an obvious shift.
Yeah, they definitely were looking to go forward, whereas in the first half, they were content to sit back and let's keep it at 0, and if we get a chance to break out, we will. And they became proactive, and they used their flanks very well. And, Sun was moving around everywhere. So in a lot of ways, he was kind of a space opener and an outlet to lead to feeding other players. And, they started utilizing the long throw-ins from Palencia, which we've not really seen. We saw more tonight than we've ever seen before, and those caused some problems.
Yeah, it's a nice wrinkle.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, it's something for their holster now, and they realized, they knew that we have to get goals. We can't go in even into Toluca and expect to get a result. Right now they got a goal lead, and now all they need to do is come out and keep Toluca from scoring.
Yeah. But before Toluca, they've got another league match next Saturday, May 2nd. LAFC travels to San Diego for another early chapter in the budding rivalry. 5 losses in a row for San Diego, though, on a bit of a skid at the moment, and their last MLS win coming March 7th. Scott, we've talked a little bit about rotation with how bad San Diego has looked lately, and the away leg against Toluca coming up. Do you expect to see some players resting for this one?
Oh, absolutely. And Mark even talked about that a little bit. What's important is Toluca. I expect to see a few players that are not going to play at all. A few may get a few minutes. I expect Buanga to get a few minutes since he didn't play tonight. He's one of those players who never wants to come off the field anyway. And the thing about San Diego is they've had a lot of problems at the back, and it's affected them elsewhere. Their passing hasn't been good. But the red cards, they had, 7 red cards in 8 games, and mostly at the back. They should have close to a first team or a first choice back line this week, and they have actually looked better the last 2 games. They're starting to figure out what their issues were and starting to solve them. It just hasn't led to the goals. I think not having Pellegrino last weekend hurt them. I think it's going to be a good game. I have a lot of faith that San Diego is a much better team than they have shown in the last month. And, with some changeover from LAFC, this game could go either way.
Yeah, it could be an opportunity for San Diego. But Scott, the time has come to say goodbye. Always a pleasure to see you. See you in the press box next time.
You as well. And it's always a joy to talk with you, Cara.
Thanks, Scott. Next up, we will chat Empire Strykers, but not before a quick shout out. National Core is one of the nation's largest nonprofit affordable housing developers and a proud sponsor of your MASL team, the Empire Strykers. At National Core, they believe that soccer has the power to transform lives. just like they do. They believe in building strong communities on and off the field. To learn more about National Core and their mission, go to nationalcore.org. And with that, let's get to the Empire Strykers in the Major Arena Soccer League, the highest level of indoor soccer in the world. This is one of the local teams I'm still learning about, and with Empire Strykers play-by-play voice Christian Philemon unavailable today, who better to bring on than our director here at Soccer in 60 and the Strykers head of communications, Gunnar Burnt. Welcome, Gunnar.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a rare opportunity. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. With the season officially in the books after Monday's win by San Diego over Milwaukee in Game 3 of the final, I want to give you a chance to look back and give your take on Empire's 2025-26 campaign. How would you rate it in retrospect?
Yeah, it's a good question. On a scale from 1 to 10, maybe I would go 7 on this, right? Empire snuck into the playoffs in the end in 6th place, which 6 teams made the playoffs, so it was the last playoff spot. But we have to, for context, we have to say the league went from 12 to 8 teams before the season. Basically, the league raised the standards, and a few teams didn't want to meet those new standards or weren't able to meet those new standards. So it became a very, very competitive field this season in the MASL, and you can see that from, if you look at the standings, right? 6th place doesn't look great at first glance, but the difference between 1st place and 6th place were only 11 points. And that shows you how tight everything was. And you really had no idea who was going to make it in this season and who wouldn't. Empire, earlier in the season, back in December, they had a very odd 5-game losing streak where they lost 3 games by a goal. They lost another one by 2 goals, which in indoor, if you don't know indoor soccer, that's nothing. Losing by a goal is way less than losing by a goal in outdoor soccer, right? You have 11-5 games sometimes, 8-2 kind of thing. So they were kind of cursed during that stretch, and then they came back and went 11-6 to close out the season. So they ended at 500. They had a couple of really great games in there somewhere where they beat the now new champion San Diego at home. They beat the mighty Kansas City Comets at home. So, a couple really big wins. So they showed some potential, and they went to the playoffs and won in emphatic fashion their home leg against Milwaukee, the eventual runner-up. And that was actually their first home playoff game since 2021. So there were some promising signs from the Strykers, I would say. What was also promising were some of the crowds at Toyota Arena. I don't know if we can get into that a little bit, but there was... Yeah, that was something that I definitely noticed. And then that makes me excited for next season. I'm also excited for next season because Marco Fabian is back, right? Mexican superstar, 2-time FIFA World Cup veteran, Olympic gold medalist. He'll be back with the Strykers for next season.
You mentioned the crowds at Toyota Arena. Did you have any favorite Strykers home games in 2025-26?
I did. That's a great question. I mentioned a couple, right? The one against San Diego, the one against Kansas City, just because the team was phenomenal in those 2 games. There were 3 toward the end that kind of stood out to me. There was a 6,200 plus crowd. They were all kind of toward the end of the season where they beat Tacoma 10-2. And Justin Stinson, club icon Justin Stinson, had 2 goals and 4 assists, which is insane. If you get 3 or 4 points in a game in indoor, that's great. 6 is insane. So that was a phenomenal game. And then they broke the league record for the season and the franchise record all time in their final game of the season at home, 7,861 people at Toyota Arena. That was a doubleheader with the women's team that may compete in the MASLW at some point. So that was fantastic. And then actually the playoff game that they won against Milwaukee, which was just under 4,000 people. They only had 3 days to sell tickets. I say they, it's really us, we. But yeah, it was an electric atmosphere in that game and a great performance from the team. Those would be my top 3, I would say.
That was an incredible home performance by Justin Stinson against Tacoma. And even though it was a bit of a slower season for Stinson, it was still a very special one for the Strykers icon. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so Justin, and people, it doesn't register with people because he's only 28 years old, right? He now has, he tied the all-time points record for the franchise. Then he broke it a week and a half later. He now sits at, so he tied it at 185. He is now at 198, so too shy of 200, and he's played in 148 games over 7 seasons for the Strykers, which in indoor, the short season is shorter, so that's a ton of games. So that was one of my favorite moments of the season, I would say, was Justin accomplishing that.
Gunnar, you are an absolute wealth of information. Let's move on to Angel City and see what you've got on ACFC. In their first match back from the international break, Angel City fell to the Portland Thorns 2-1 at BMO Stadium last Sunday. And it's one that'll sting because it slipped late. This was a game Angel City felt they had control of, especially in the second half, and they let it get away in the margins. As Alex Strauss put it, the moments were just too big, and against a team like Portland, that's all it takes. Giselle Thompson looked very good early, forcing a tough save before the half-hour mark, while both Olivia Moultrie and Sophia Wilson looked their usual dangerous selves in the first half. In the 76th minute, Angelina Anderson hesitated before coming out on a header played back into the box, and it proved costly as Pietra Tordin was able to put one over the ACFC keeper. Late in stoppage, Sophia Wilson was busy doing Sophia Wilson things, taking a pass 1v1 up the left side on the counter and beating both Sarah Gordon and Angelina Anderson on a fantastic strike. 2-0 Portland, but not for long. Priska Chilufya dragged Angel City back into the match with her 98th minute goal off a beautiful service from Emily Sams after a quick restart. Gunnar, it was a disappointing result, especially because so little was asked of Anderson in this one. I cannot get that Sophia Wilson goal out of my head because it started with a poor clearance from Anderson, who was then off her line as Wilson beelined it to goal. But Angel City's got options. Do we think Strauss is considering giving Hannah Siebert a look?
Yeah, so this is a very, very interesting question to me. I think, honestly, when I think about the goalkeeping situation at Angel City, I think Angelina Anderson, the reason she has gotten so many starts, I think is her age. I think they see tremendous upside in her. They see that that the sky's the limit in terms of her value at some point and in terms of her potential. If these two keepers, Angelina Anderson and Hannah Siebert, were both, say, 29 years old, I don't think Angelina Anderson is starting at this point, in my opinion. We had Hannah Siebert on the show, which caused me to kind of look into her career a little bit. I knew, she's done some things in Europe. It turns out people here don't really follow European women's leagues as much as they should, according to Alex Strauss. I talked to him about that, and he was like, people need to pay attention to Europe, because Hannah Siebert comes back, and a lot of people here are like, who's Hannah Siebert? Never heard of her, right? She's from SoCal. Okay, that's all we know about her. She is actually a domestic cup and league winner in Denmark. She was a Danish League Player of the Year after she went over there. She won the domestic cup in Portugal. She captained Sporting in Portugal, a giant historic franchise in Portugal. She made 90 appearances for Sporting alone. She played in the Champions League over there. I think she has almost 150 appearances in Europe, and she won back-to-back goalkeeper of the year in Portugal. That is a massive resume, right? This is not a player that has no experience. So last season they played her for a couple games. I think for 3 games they played her, if I remember correctly. She was world class, saved their butts in a couple games, and then she had one rougher appearance and they took her right back out. And I really think it's because they always leaned Angelina Anderson because of her age, right? Ton of potential. She's been called up to the national team, but I think it might be time to go with experience at this point. At least see what you have in Hannah Siebert.
I'm glad I asked. Once again, a wealth of information.
Yeah, but I actually have a question for you. Okay. So speaking of younger players, right? And speaking of younger players that we've had on the show, we had Hannah Siebert on the show. a young player that we had on the show recently is Taylor Suarez, who actually got her first start for Angel City in this game. I wanted to know, you're a former Canadian national teamer. You're a Hall of Famer with Canada, right? You have a good eye for talent in the men's and the women's game. What did you see from Taylor Suarez in this game?
I think there were a lot of positive takeaways for Suarez from this game. A shot on goal in the 36th minute shows she was finding herself in dangerous positions. It was a weak chipped ball right to the keeper, though. I'm sure she would love to have another go at that one. She also set up Mayara Noose off a corner kick. She laid it off in the middle of the 18, served Noose on a platter. It was a very savvy play for the rookie. Yep. She also had 5 defensive contributions. That's a strong shift in 63 minutes. And this wasn't a low pressure game by any means. She was playing against a very talented Portland side, very dangerous Portland side. And for Strauss to start Suarez in this match shows that she is gaining his trust. It was a positive step forward for her. And I think she just needs to just keep chipping away because, like Siebert, Suarez's upside is absolutely massive.
Mm-hmm. Another player that kind of stood out to me, I was at the game. Another player that stood out came in the second half, gave Angel City 30 minutes and change, brought some really good energy to the game, was June Endo, right? Big name, very popular with the fans here. 22 touches, created a quality look at goal, and had a bunch of really good touches inside the opponent's penalty area. What was your impression of her in this game?
Yeah, seeing June Endo return was probably my biggest positive takeaway from this match. What a presence she is out there. What a key piece to the depth of this squad. And while 27 minutes isn't much time, it's a start. And there's no doubt as she works her way back up to full fitness, she'll be a key contributor for Angel City again.
Yeah, and I have to apologize. I said 30 plus. I guess it felt like more because she added so much energy to the game, but you have the numbers in front of you. Angel City, even later in the game, they bring on Priska Chilufya, right? A player who we've heard good things about. We know she's capable of generating offense. This really, I think, was a little bit enlightening for a lot of the fans here at BMO. Mm-hmm. She looked really good. She added a lot of energy in the little time that she had. What did you think of her performance in the game? And what do you make of her? Could she be sort of a longer term super sub for the club?
Absolutely. I mean, she showed that she is a super sub. That quick restart to score the goal off of a quick restart like that, quick restarts like that can be just so deadly. What a heads up play. And then for it to be Emily Sams, the one providing that beautiful service as well for Chilufya, just in behind the back line, such a dangerous ball. That was not an easy finish by any means, but Chilufya made it look easy, which says a lot about her. I mean, the first time volley like that, on the run, full speed, crashing the goal. It's clear these two played together in Orlando because she knew exactly where to be when Sams had the ball out wide, and it paid off. And talk about making the most of your opportunity out there for only a few minutes, and she nabs a goal. It really looked like the game was about to turn around in that moment, and maybe they could nab one more. But so I was super impressed with her. But Gunnar, I know you were in the presser and you heard her say some interesting things. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, it was it was Sarah Gordon and Priska Chilufya in the press conference. Sarah also had some interesting things to say. Maybe I can go into that a little bit. What I thought was so first of all, let me second what you said about the finish, right? It looks so easy. Right. When you see it in real time, you're like, okay, yeah, right. That she was right there on the doorstep, but that is a very hard delivery into the box with pace. And she just hits that. I mean, she put her laces through that. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to put a hole in the back of the net. Right. I mean, that's not an easy finish. Phenomenal.
It wasn't like a redirection. It was a full on strike at full speed. It was very impressive.
Like, I'm going to punt this thing. If the net wasn't here, this would leave the stadium. And it would have, right? If there wasn't a goal there to catch the ball, it would have left the stadium. Someone had asked her a question, kind of what goes through her head when she's on the sideline. How does she prepare? And she said, I'm not just watching the game. I'm actually playing while the game is going on. And everybody kind of looked at her like, where's this going, right? You're not playing. You're sitting on the bench. And she said, no, every single play that doesn't work out for us, I'm replaying in my head, what should I have done? Or if I was in that position, what would I do differently to accomplish a different outcome? So she's like, I'm playing like my muscles are actually, she didn't say this, but that's kind of how she portrayed it, right? It's like, no, I'm not passive. I'm actively involved in the game and kind of going through every single play, which it's working. She should keep doing it, right? That was
exactly what you want from your substitutes.
Yeah,
it's exactly what you want. And
yeah.
Next up, Angel City is back at BMO. For this one, AFC hosts Utah Royals for another match against an opponent just above Angel City in the standings, as Utah has 10 points through 6 matches and comes in winners of their last 3. If Angel City is circling one name on Utah's roster, it's definitely Mina Tanaka. She's their most dangerous attacking piece right now. Proven international striker with 90 plus caps, 40 plus goals for Japan, already made an impact this season for Utah, came off the bench and scored in her debut appearance. Now she's got 2 goals for her club. The Angel City backline will definitely have their hands full with Tanaka. They've got to start turning these strong stretches of play into results. Now let's move on to OCSC, Orange County SC of the USL Championship, with OCSC superfan Tim Kolak's out this week. We're going to keep Gunnar on because he used to work for the club back when it was still called LA Blues and playing its home games at Titan Stadium in Fullerton. Over the weekend, Orange County fell 2-1 at home to El Paso Locomotive in the USL Cup. Tell our listeners what the USL Cup is and what you took away from this match, Gunnar.
Yeah, so the USL Cup is a tournament that's happening sort of parallel to the actual league season. It involves teams from USL Championship and USL League One, which is the second tier of the USL. I know it's all a little confusing. All of that is under MLS. But yeah, so it's 2 different leagues. It's mostly exciting for the USL League One teams who get to play up a level. But you could kind of tell that for the USL Championship teams, it's a little bit of a, I don't want to say a nuisance, but they rotate a lot. They kind of try to give their younger players some time in these games. And that's what they did here. That's what Orange County did in this game. 7 changes from their last league games. They played a lot of really, really young players. Despite that, they showed in the first half their identity from the entire season. They put a lot of emphasis during the offseason on being extremely hard to break down, being difficult to beat, defensively, being disciplined. And so it was a scoreless first half. They come out of that half and they take the lead in this game, right? In about, I want to say the 55th minute or so, but then they have a red card. It's not a straight red card. It's a second yellow card to one of their players that just changes the entire trajectory. They played, did we say who they played? They played El Paso Locomotive in this game. Mm-hmm. They end up losing 2-1, right? So they come from 1-0 up and they end up losing 2-1. They only had 40% of possession. This is expected when you're down a man. They were outshot 5-19. I was still impressed with how they prevented big chances from El Paso. It ended up being 4-4 in shots on goal. It ended up being 1-1 in big chances created, according to FOTMob. And it took a shot from about 25 yards out from El Paso to tie it, and then a shot from about the top of the box that was deflected and was unstoppable. And that's how they broke through in the end. But Orange County really didn't allow that much. So I would say it was a little bit disappointing. I'm sure they would have liked to get a result from this game. But at the end of the day, the question is, how much do they really care? Because this competition, with all that rotating, and it's clearly an afterthought to the regular season, I would say.
Yeah. And you mentioned the red card to Orange County forward Apollo Marinch, who, by the way, turned 16 years old yesterday.
Yeah.
If you didn't feel
Insane.
old already,
Yeah.
now you do. Obviously, that moment changed everything in this game. What did you make of the play and the referee's decision?
Yeah, well, I felt old when you referenced my LA Blues days, because that was 100 years ago. But yeah, so this is a 15-year-old player, right? When you look at the play, I think he's lucky that it's not a straight red card. He comes in, studs up, clearly going for the ball, clearly completely underestimating how quickly that opposition player is going to get there. He kind of catches him in the hip area a little bit. I don't think it was a ton of contact. It's a little hard to tell from the replay. But I think this is what happens when you have a 15-year-old, right? He's sitting on a yellow card. He shouldn't go in like that. And an experienced player doesn't go in like that. But I think it's also the level that he normally plays at. The players are younger. They're not grown adults. They probably don't get to that ball as quickly. So he's like, oh, normally I just take that ball down and everything's fine. But playing with men, that guy got there faster and had the ball a second before he got there, a half a second before he got there. So it's a lack of experience. Clearly, it's very unfortunate. But what I wanted to ask you really quickly, because I think it's fascinating. You played for Canada when you were 15 for the senior national team. If that had happened to you, right? If you sat on a yellow card at halftime and your coach decided to keep you on, now in retrospect, would you say if you had gotten a second yellow there, you probably should have taken me off?
Well, like you said, this game didn't really mean that much. And I think the experience that he got or would have gotten had he stayed in the match and not gotten the second yellow would have been worth more than whatever the risk was of him getting that card. So if it's a meaningless game, then yeah, I say leave him in. But I also don't think you should be surprised when a 15-year-old forgets that he's already on a yellow, because I would have done the same. I can guarantee you I wouldn't have been thinking about the yellow that I got in the half before. I mean, I was a goldfish and I would have forgotten for sure at 50, like he did. So
right. Yeah. And Orange County has to showcase their young players somewhere. They have a reputation for sending them everywhere, Europe. So they got to showcase them somewhere. I know we got to go to the next segment. Let me give a really quick look ahead to this weekend's game, because it's a massive one. Yeah, it's at Sacramento. This is a California rivalry clash. First against fifth, the two best defenses in the Western Conference in the USL Championship. I think they're both unbeaten in 3, I want to say, if I'm remembering correctly. And these teams don't like each other. Orange County eliminated Sacramento from the playoffs last season. They subbed on their second goalkeeper, their backup goalkeeper, for the penalty shootout, and it worked out. He saved a couple penalties. So there's a lot of emotion in this game. You got to tune in and watch it. This is a really interesting one.
Sounds like it's going to be a good one. And now for everyone's favorite part of the show, the Soccer in 60 Best 11. And lucky us, we've got Gunnar here to answer for some of his selections, as he is the one who chooses this Best 11. So we start off with the goalkeeper position. Of course, no surprise here, Hugo Lloris for his performance at Minnesota for LAFC, but he could also be on this list for his performance tonight against Toluca at BMO. He has been standing on his head. Defenders, first off, Nkosi Tafari, LAFC at Minnesota and versus Toluca. How could he not make it for both his defensive performance and his late game heroics to give his team the win tonight against Toluca? Ryan Porteous, LAFC at Minnesota. He's been the glue to this very stellar LAFC backline this season. Emily Sams for her performance in the Angel City match against Portland. It was a loss, but that was a stunning assist from her on Chilufia's goal. We talked about it tonight. Midfielders, Marco Royce, Galaxy versus RSL. 2 goals on the weekend. No surprise there. But Gunnar, this guy's 37 and carrying this team. Talk to me about his attitude and his performances as of late.
Yeah, I know him really well because he is obviously a legend with another team that I work for, which is Borussia Dortmund in Germany, right? Absolute giant with Borussia Dortmund. He's played at the absolute highest level. He had a lot of injuries and didn't always get to all the the big tournaments that he wanted to. He could now say at 37, yeah, I've been there, done that. I've had much bigger disappointments, but I saw him in a press conference recently after a loss, and he was so upset. And that's just impressive to me, to have that much competitive spirit at that age. Just mind blowing.
Yeah, impressive to see him that passionate about this team, especially considering how much of a slog it's been really since he arrived here with the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Moving on to the other midfielders, Lucas Sanabria. Scott talked about how he has cemented himself as a starter for the Galaxy. He was really the connector and the engine against RSL. So he's in there for that performance. Harbour Miller, this is the biggest point of contention for me, Gunnar. I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one. Miller looked out of place to me in that match against RSL. I think Jacob Schaffelberg is the one who deserves to be on this list. I think he was excellent for LAFC against Toluca. I think his speed both ways, both defensively and as a member of the attack. That goal was a gut punch for him to have that called back, because it was a beautiful finish by him, just absolutely clinical. A great run into the box as well. So I've got questions for you about why Schaffelberg is not on this list, but we will move on. Timothy Tillman, this one I agree with. LAFC at Minnesota and versus Toluca. He earned that one. A beautiful goal. He missed his first two clear-cut chances, but he made no mistake with that third finish. Moving on to the forwards, David Martinez, LAFC at Minnesota. Obviously, his goal was a thing of beauty in that one and the difference maker, even though he scored it in the first 8 minutes of the match. Son Heung-min, LAFC versus Toluca, when he stepped up to take that free kick, you knew it was going to be something special. Thoughts on Son, Gunnar?
Yeah, Son, I know we're running out of time, but I think it's just really important for LAFC to have him put in a quality shift and to have him pick up some confidence. He was starting to look like he wasn't really believing anymore. So massive for him.
And that's it for us. Thanks, Gunnar. A very full week of soccer on behalf of Gunnar and Scott. Thank you for being here. This has been Soccer in 60, presented by SAC Health System.